Really felt like the sort of rug got pulled from under me. We had that break, did SailGP, seemed like we were doing a good job, and then it was like, oh, that's it. Am I going to get back in SailGP? Is there going to be a future in the America's Cup? And as you say, it felt like that control got taken away. But out of that, I just looked and went, right, well, what can I control? What can we do?
This is the Performance People podcast in partnership with JP Morgan. Dylan Fletcher, my guest this week, Emirates GBR skipper, and just recently announced as GB1, lots of GBs going on, GB1 America's Cup helm for the British team for their America's Cup challenge in 2027. Let's get your reaction to that first of all.
Yeah, unbelievable, to be honest, to be named as helmsman. Sailing last time with Ben was sort of a lifelong dream to get in the America's Cup and actually be in the match, but feels like this is the start of a long road for the America's Cup of some consistency. So yeah, very excited.
Yeah, we've got a whole big plan of action now to enact and a strategy to put together to try and finally bring that cup home to Britain. Let's talk about your defining moment. You and Ben have sort of dovetailed in the last few years with your careers, and you've been very much in and around each other's lives. Just explain to me what your defining moment is, and we'll then extrapolate out from that what's happened since.
Yeah, quite a difficult one at the time. At the end of season 1 of SailGP back in 2019, we'd just finished a team building event, and we'd just been the first team to sign a sort of reasonable sponsor. And as we walked out of the team building event, Chris came to the side and said, there's some bad news. I think Ben is going to basically get the team and you're going to be out. And I was just absolutely shocked. That was sort of a defining moment, I guess, really put everything into perspective and sort of set me back a few years at the time, it felt like.
And so that then happened, that all came to pass. But then you had a phone call from Ben, which changed everything again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Ben at the time picked up the phone, and I remember speaking to him at that point when he took the team, and he was really nice. And I completely understood why he took the team. And I think that the way we both reacted made it a lot of sort of built the future or the grounds for some future. And so, yeah, when I got that phone call a few years later to be part of the GBR challenge, it was unbelievable.
So I remember talking to him about this, and he said, yes, I remember making that call to Dylan where I had to explain that we were taking the team. When that call came, so there's lots of calls going on here. When that call came where he explained to you, look, I mean, fundamentally, this is a business case, and this is why we're doing this. And what does that feel like as the athlete who's then having been sort of in control of your destiny, suddenly you're not, and someone else is writing that script? What does it feel like when you have to sort of take that away and digest it?
Yeah, it really felt like the sort of rug got pulled from under me. It was that we had that break, did SailGP, seemed like we were doing a good job, and then it was like, oh, that's it. Is that the end? Am I going to get back in SailGP? Is there going to be a future in the America's Cup? And as you say, it felt like that control got taken away. But out of that, I just looked and went, right, well, what can I control? What can we do? And so Stu and I set about basically being like, right, well, we're going to go and win a gold medal. If we go and win a gold medal, then we're a bit more employable in the future, basically. So that you just put all of our energy into that.
In a weird way, if it hadn't have happened, do you think the gold medal would have come?
It's a good question. You never know at the end of the day. I think that we certainly needed that SailGP first season to help fund our Olympic campaign. And that kind of set us on the back foot going forward, not having that. But it was definitely career defining, losing that team, and I guess having a bit of siege mentality between the two of us as to let's just get together and crack on.
I guess one of the things that we talk about a lot in many different walks of life is actually having resilience. And I guess that moment would have really tested yours, but also possibly given you even more.
Yeah, certainly was very testing. I remember we went down not long after to the 49er World Championships it was one in Australia, one in New Zealand, and just almost being embarrassed walking into the boat park, having lost, that job. And there was the other sailors there who were doing SailGP, and that took a lot, as you say, a lot of resilience to sort of keep pushing on and being like, no, we've got this. And it certainly added a lot of fuel to the fire inside, the belly of wanting to get back and prove everyone wrong that, I can go and do it.
There's definitely that in you, isn't there? There's definitely this sort of scrapping, sort of terrier-like nature, which is where does that come from? Because it does often feel like you're trying to prove to people that actually you've totally got the smarts for this, of which you've completely done in spades. But is that's just inherently in you?
Yeah, I guess it's an interesting one. I think when I started sailing, I didn't come from a sailing background, and it took quite a long time, it felt like, to be taken seriously, or a very long time. And I guess maybe it's from that. Maybe I've got a bit of a chip on my shoulder.
Do you feel like you do?
Not anymore. I think I did when I was younger. Yeah, certainly did feel like that. But I think, especially last, 5 years, which just feels like it's been an unbelievable road to where we are today. That's sort of, I've got rid of it.
Yeah, but also, so that then led to this Olympic piece, which was phenomenal. Like you say, so much more employable when there's a gold medal around your neck. I mean, so talk to me about that journey. So you then take this phone call from Ben, and it's bad news, and you're off that SailGP boat that you thought could be potentially a really good future world for you. So when that happened, how did you go back and rebuild? What were the next steps?
Yeah, Stu and I, at the time, it was the Olympic campaigning, and just said, what can we control? So we basically just we were already working hard, but maybe we worked a bit harder for that gold medal. Obviously then COVID happened and everything completely changed. And from a racing perspective, that meant that we hadn't sailed against Pete and Blair for nearly over 18 months.
Kiwi adversaries.
The gold medalists from the previous cycle. And we hadn't sailed again for 18 months before the Olympics. So it was quite an interesting one. And I never forget, we came off the start line and they were just near us, and we'd worked a lot on boat speed. They'd always been the fastest boat. And I remember coming off the start line and halfway up the beat, just said to Stu, it's on, and almost have goosebumps thinking about it, because I just remember being like, right, we're fast enough. This is, we can make this happen this week.
And did it feel like in that moment, like you say, there's so much that has to happen to then, eventually mean that gold medal is around your neck and you're standing on the top podium step. But did it feel like you really could almost touch it?
I think it really felt as though the opportunity was there. Previously, they'd always been, like the previous games in Rio, they were just way too fast. It was like, nah, we're quick enough, and it's going to be a bit of a.
So what had you worked on? What turns you from a sort of a silver medal contender to a gold medal contender? What's the difference?
If I look back at the Rio campaign, where we finished just outside the medals, and Stu won a silver medal in London before that. I think it was as you see with Ben, we just put gold at the centre of our campaign. Rather than winning a medal, we talked about winning gold and what it was going to take to win gold basically the whole time. And it changed the way we campaigned enormously. That difference between a medal and a gold was just huge. It was almost twice the amount of work, or even more, in terms of every little detail on planning, on equipment, on training. And we also said that we're there to have the opportunity to do it. And we knew that if we went into that medal race, we were going to have to beat Pete and Blair. It was always going to come down to a match race or an incredibly close race, rather than winning it with a medal race to spare like people had done before.
So what did it feel like when you're standing on that podium with that gold medal around your neck, thinking, I'm employable?
Yeah, it was honestly, it's unbelievable. Just a lifelong dream, 15 years of 49er sailing for that gold medal. And I think it's actually relief when you first do it. It's just relief that you've finally done something that you have been trying to for so long. But as you say, it was great. And you're like, oh yeah, here we go. Maybe we can get back into some other things. But it's not the phone doesn't start ringing just because you've won that. You still have to go out there and work hard and do all the rest to get into it. That
also plays into that idea that relief is the thing that is the overwhelming sort of overriding emotion in that moment. Also sort of plays into the idea that, failure is actually what's driving you forward, and actually not feeling that again, as opposed to winning and success. There's something in that? It feels like across lots of different athletes, this driving force is not to fail.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. You want to go out there and win, and failing sucks, right? It's not fun, and the sort of determination to always be better, and there's always more, and you can always be better and perfect doesn't really exist, even though we strive for it all the time.
What do you think you've learnt most from a failure? What was something that happened that didn't go according to plan that made you think, looking back, that gave me X, Y, Z?
I think that losing the team to Ben really made me understand the different side of sailing, which I was so naive about before. I was just focused on winning and didn't sort of realize that, well, you have to win on and off the water. You can't just win on the water. And so opening my eyes to the whole commercial side of sailing, and ultimately it is a show and it has to be commercially successful. Otherwise, people aren't going to pay, and then you can't go and sail these amazing boats at the end of the day.
I think that's very astute, isn't it? And as you grow as an athlete, you understand more and more the business of sport, not just, like you say, what's going on the field of play or on the water in your case. So then there's this gold medal around your neck. And like you say, the phone doesn't just start ringing. Having said that, I remember the phone ringing in our household coming the other way.
Yeah.
So what then happened?
Yeah, I did pester Ben a little bit. I was always like, oh, how much can I message him or, ring him, which isn't too creepy, but it's just about enough to be that he might give me an opportunity. So, clearly it sort of it paid off in the end.
But it's interesting that because, persistency in the right measures is exactly what got you, along with your sailing talent and acumen and everything else, that next gig, which was to get into and be part of the America's Cup team setup that Ben was running at the time. So clearly, even though you've got this gold medal around your neck, you didn't feel entitled to anything.
Oh, absolutely didn't feel entitled. And I knew that there's, you have a bit of a reputation, and it's very different going from an Olympic campaign with 2 people and a coach and a few support staff to working with 150, 200 staff in an America's Cup team. And so being able to grow and understand and learn. And I never forget that first week where I was on trial in Barcelona, just being like, just sit back, listen, don't,
How much did you, because you're a bit like me, you want to sort of be in the weeds of everything. How much did you have to sit on your hands during that first week just to, like you said, do the thing you knew you had to do, which was just absorb it?
Yeah, quite a lot. But I think I also was just there to absorb all the information. So I knew there was things that there's a lot I didn't know. There's a lot I didn't even realize I didn't know. But there were obviously, I guess, some things which I felt as though I was already then. You're like, oh, I think we should do this. And trying to understand the politics of a big team and how the cogs work and who to speak to was really important for me to learn. And just, the idea that I had to every day say to myself, if in doubt, sit back and go and have a conversation afterwards and just be careful.
Just watch your step.
Yeah.
And so that America's Cup call up did happen. So you, like you say, you're pestering Ben and you finally get through. And yes, he's like, let's try this. Let's see how this goes. And then that first week in Barcelona, sort of a testing week. And then there's this great big shift that happens because, like you say, you're in this sort of role which is not guaranteed to be a helm on the boat by any stretch of the imagination. And Giles Scott's in the mix as well, who's been helming with Ben previously in other cup campaigns. So that doesn't feel like naturally it's going to get to be your gig. So in that sort of formative time where you're placing yourself in the team, what were the things that you thought you needed to contribute?
I guess ultimately,
and do really well.
Yeah, ultimately, I was there to help the team win the America's Cup. And so I just put all my energy into whatever I could do to help us win the America's Cup, basically. And I think regardless of who was sailing or what was happening, that was always the driving force. Like, we're here to win the America's Cup. Anything I can do, basically, that's going to get us one step closer.
How much do you love that teamwork element that, a cup team like that provides?
The cup's amazing for the amount of time you get to spend on the water and the detail you get into and how much you get to progress. Like the rate of progress, I mean, as you saw last time around, like from the preliminary regatta to the cup, we just got so much faster, so much better. And that side I really love. It feels like far more similar to that sort of Olympic campaign where you get to get into the real nitty gritty detail, but you're on this incredibly fast learning curve the whole time.
So when the opportunity came to actually co-helm alongside Ben, which is what happened in the end, and Ben made that really tough call to say, actually, I'm going to take Dylan in that spot alongside me, to the detriment of Giles at the time. Did you see it coming? Could you see that there was that was going to happen at some point?
I didn't know it was coming. I think my wife Charlotte had to listen to the conversation 1,000 times about because I didn't really know what the deal was. I just was there to help us win the America's Cup, and obviously my dream was to helm. But it certainly was a very nice conversation. But prior to that, I hadn't really had any discussion at all with Ben about it being a possibility. I guess in a weird way, the pressure wasn't on you in that moment. So you could kind of contribute in a way, which, like you say, is very much part of being a team. But did that shift? Did you feel suddenly like, oh, Christ, like if I get that gig, which it sounds like I'm getting, this is where I need to get to? Yeah, certainly that pressure of I've never match raced before in racing, and I'm sat alongside one of the greatest sailors of all time, and I need to be level, consistent. You know, I will make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but you can't falter and then let it draw into the next one. So there's certainly the pressure cooker of that cup, and was like the most amount of pressure I've ever felt in my life. But I love pressure, so I was really up for that challenge. What did it feel like sitting in that boat alongside Ben, gearing up for that first start, that sort of 2-minute prelim start that happens, which is basically a game of cat and mouse between you and the other team? What did it feel like when you were in that for the first time? It was stressful. Yeah, it was definitely the most sort of pressure situation I felt like, even compared to the Olympics. I think because you feel the weight of the expectation, and you've got 200 people supporting or serving in the team, and then you've also got all your sports fans and everyone on shore. And I remember, in fact, the emotional part was docking out. I remember the dock out. It hadn't been on my radar that was a thing. I'd never been to an America's Cup before, and I was a bit teary that first day that we docked out, and I was like, oh my God. Just explain to people who don't know what it is, what that is, and what happens in that moment. Yeah, so we have a dock out show, which is normally run by you. Brilliant. Yeah. And we sort of have, I'm not sure how many people there, but hundreds, maybe 1,000 people. It's all family, friends and family, and some sponsors, but it's quite personal, isn't it? Yeah, friends and family. And they're all on shore, they're wishing us the best. And we had our dock out song. And then as the series progressed, the cup progressed, more and more people would come. And then they'd be lining the shores. The super yachts are hooting their horns. And you really feel that support from everyone with the Union Jacks sort of supporting you. And having done the games in Tokyo where we missed out on that because it was the COVID games. Yeah. It was just something, never on my radar, but I loved it and really appreciated the support. Was that proper kind of lump in your throat stuff as the competition developed? Because it is like you say, quite a personal moment that the team are sharing, but also a lot of other people are sort of getting involved in it. And as you're sort of going through the competition, like you say, the shoreline mushrooms in size, doesn't it? Like the contribution from everyone on shore gets crazier and crazier the further that you go into competition. Was there a moment where you had to kind of go, I've got to block this out now because I've got to be completely focused, or did you just love taking it all in? I think I certainly embraced it and tried to bring that into the drive and the ambition to go and succeed for your fans. But ultimately, as soon as you then, you turn the corner and you start thinking about what jib you're using, what sail you're using, then all of a sudden it's like bang, race mode. Did you feel the nerves? Do you feel nervous before you race? Absolutely. I think it would be weird not to feel nerves. I think I definitely enjoy it. And it's ultimately, I know it's been said 1,000 times, but that those nerves is that pressure, and that's a privilege to feel that. You feel the pressure because there's something worth winning. If it wasn't worth winning, then you wouldn't really feel it and it wouldn't matter, would it? So those nerves are what makes it so amazing. On the morning of a race, do you feel it though? What's your routine like first thing before racing? I mean, most of these America's Cup races and SailGP races happen sort of early afternoon. What's your kind of routine that takes you into that place to get you in the right headspace? We'd spend, we had a morning routine in terms of briefings and sim time and all of that. The other one I would always struggle with is just trying to eat. Like eating food is just when I get nervous, I'm not hungry. So end up just trying to get something down. I remember actually being sat around in the container, our team container in the Olympics, this was in Tokyo. And there was Giles, Hannah Mills, myself and Stu Bithell, and we were all sat there before racing, and physiologists are like, you just need to eat some food, and we're all just sat there just looking at our sandwich, just like,
with no energy.
Nah, not interested. We'll have a gel. Let's just give us a gel. So yeah, it's similar, and it's a bit easier in a cup. You get into a routine, and just trying to get some food down, have a coffee, just get into the racing ultimately.
I know that sleep matters to you. I know that is important to you. So do you find that that's easy enough to do before a race?
No, definitely struggle.
It's good for people to hear this though, because it's good for people to understand that in an athlete's world, they still struggle with the same sort of things that everyday people would, who are going in the next day to do a big presentation or a big meeting or whatever, or a pitch or whatever it might be, because everyone just assumes that you guys work like clockwork, but you still struggle with the same things the rest of us do.
Yeah, I certainly felt like when I learned and appreciated that if I didn't have a best night's sleep before a race day, it wasn't the end of the world. And so before, you'd get stressed about, I'm not sleeping well, or I need to get a good night's sleep, or I've woken up, when am I going to go back to sleep? And when I sort of actually went, well, I'm going to go and lie down, and I'm going to try and lie down for 8 hours. I will get as much sleep as I'm going to get, and it is what it is. And but trying to avoid going on my phone when I wake up, just trying to just lie there and just accept that is still recovery ultimately.
I imagine you're also doing a shed load of visualization of manifesting how you're going to win the next day. Is that right?
I try to not think about sailing, because if I think about sailing, then that's it. I'm awake. Yeah. So I try to really, the day before that, the evening before, it's like, well, what can I do? Have I done everything I need to do for tomorrow, and try and tick that all off, and then try and ignore it. Because I used to just be a nightmare when I was younger, and just be going through every single race result, every single point, every decision, and then it would just eat me up.
Would you say that you're obsessive about sailing?
Yeah, I'm probably a bit of a sailing geek, maybe.
I think you are. I think you're like Ben. You rewatch things over and over and over again, don't you? So that Cup campaign was obviously extraordinary and recorded, I think, our most sort of historical and best result in 90 years as a British team in America's Cup competition, which was fantastic. And you and Ben did an amazing job alongside those other team players on the boat and off the water to sort of, do as well as you did in that campaign. How did that change the dynamic of your relationship with Ben? Because like you say, you didn't really know each other that well, and then suddenly you're actually helming alongside each other in that masterful competition. Yeah,
big change in the dynamic between me and Ben. I remember being 15 and getting my buoyancy aid signed by him at the boat show. I was sailing alongside him, and we obviously had a very successful campaign. So I felt very lucky and privileged to have the opportunity to sail with Ben and learn so much from all of his sort of mat race experience over the years. But yeah, I think we have a good relationship, especially I think he's doing a really good job of helping me in that transition to when I came back to SailGP as well, and being the CEO. And I'm very lucky to have that.
What do you think are your greatest sort of takeaways from him on the water and off the water?
I mean, on the water, it's that ruthlessness that you see, just never giving them an inch, not backing down. And then from the off the water side, I've learned so much from how you manage the team, and not just saying what you think all the time, and understanding the right time when to sit back and listen more, which I think Ben does really well. And so from that side, that's what I've been trying to learn as I get a bit older.
So what does it feel like now, sort of sitting here, knowing that you've got another America's Cup campaign ahead of you in a couple of years' time? God, it's less than that.
Next year.
What does that feel like? When you look back at that moment where Ben called you and said, I'm really sorry, Dylan, but I'm going to nick the team and I'm biffing you off it, to where you are now. What does that feel like?
It just feels like a whirlwind, like unbelievable. I just keep on, saying to Charlotte, we're so lucky that have to be here. And she's like, it's not luck. It's because of all the hard work and dedication.
Well, she's right. And your lucky cat.
Yeah.
Definitely the lucky cat. And so obviously America's Cup's super exciting, but on the SailGP side, last season was brilliant and culminated in that fabulous final in Abu Dhabi where you won that final race and you ended that season as season. I'm trying to remember all the things. Season champion. Well, you talk through what happened last season.
Impact League winners.
Thank you.
Points champions and grand final champions. I think that's what they call it. Yeah. So we all got all three.
You did a triple.
Triple, yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. So what did that feel like? Having kind of that was your sort of, a real first season back in the Helming gig. What does it feel like having gone from, like you say, not being on the boat and having the rug pulled to then coming back and getting the call up to be back on that SailGP boat, probably as because of what happened in the America's Cup and that great relationship that's building with you and Ben. What does it feel like now sitting here as SailGP champions based on the fact that, a few years ago, it didn't look that rosy?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I remember even in 2022, I was trying to get my own SailGP team together because I didn't see any opportunities back. So for Ben to offer that driving role, and then I remember going into Abu Dhabi just being like, am I going to still be able to do this? Like, am I the person that Ben thinks I am? And we made...
That's really interesting. So you had sort of a few sort of self-doubts creeping in.
Well, certainly in terms of, Giles started and really struggled when he started in SailGP, and the team were a team that were capable of winning. And in my...
So what does that do? You sort of feel the pressure?
Yeah, I felt the pressure. It's like, if we're not on the podium, it's only because of me, because everyone else can be on the podium and they've proven that countless times. So I'm going to be the weak link, and I need to do everything I can to learn. But the team did an amazing job of giving me space to make mistakes, which sort of I felt like allowed then my strengths to shine through, even though I was still making plenty of mistakes.
Yeah. Do you feel kind of like you say you've almost grown with the team over the course of the last year and more relaxed in your role effectively, knowing that you can put it all together, you guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think we almost had a bit of a honeymoon start where we had 3 events on the podium at all 3, 1 Sydney. And then it all went downhill for 3 events in America where we lost our way a bit, started fighting a bit as a team. Communication wasn't great. And so after that, it felt like from Portsmouth onwards, the European leg, we really came together as a team, made some changes. And it's just felt like throughout the whole year from there, we were just building momentum up to that grand final.
I think people assume when you have a winning scenario like you did, like that honeymoon period at the beginning, and everything was going really well, like, how can you fall off the perch from there? And then it does happen. And how much harder is it to kind of get back to winning ways? And what did you do between, those events where you struggled a bit and then you came back? What were the changes that made the difference?
I think that when we started doing well, you'll quite often see that, and your expectations are low. Everyone's quite happy. There's a lot high acceptance when thing goes wrong, but all of a sudden you start winning and expectation creeps in, and then a mistake happens, and then it's easy to dwell on that mistake rather than moving on. And so we really tried to look at ourselves as a team individually. What made us tick? How do we get the most out of each team member? And then ultimately just trying to create the space for acceptance and being able to just push hard, basically, but with that acceptance.
What happens in your team when a mistake happens? When someone cocks up, how do you manage it?
I mean, normally the individual might say something and say, "Oh, my bad," but that's still quite rare. And I think the whole team honestly just moves on. If you listen to the communication on our boat and there's a big mistake, we generally don't swear. There's none of that sort of thing. It's just we get overtaken. You almost can't tell in the boat whether or not we're winning or losing. It's just very flat, the comms. Is
that when you know you got a good thing going?
I think so. I think that being level-headed the whole time, even though you're not really, that ultimately you have to accept that you are going to get annoyed, and it is up and down, but trying to continually focus on, well, what is the next right decision? That's not gone well, but if I dwell on that, it's not going to help at all. So what is the next right decision from here?
What's kind of special about this season, and it's sad to lose Gooby to the Australians, but what is really quite special is that you're reunited with Stu, who you won that gold medal with in Tokyo, and you didn't sail with him between Tokyo and this SailGP first race in Perth, the inaugural race for this season, which you guys then all went and won, which is phenomenal. I mean, it's like a fairy tale storyline. but did you feel, I mean, you obviously suggested that Stu would be good to bring into the team. Again, that's kind of, part of the decision-making process, but did you feel responsible for the outcome of that? And actually, what's it like having him back on your boat and in that dynamic?
Yeah, I certainly did feel a bit of responsibility for bringing Stu back in, and it was brilliant to sail with him again. He's got so much energy, and ultimately the campaign leading up to Tokyo, he certainly changed me in a way to who I am today in terms of the communication and allowing me to realize I need to let go a bit more. So to sail with him again was amazing, and he's just a big character.
So good fun to have around.
Yeah, lots of fun, lots of banter, and like maybe sometimes too much. But
no doubt it'd be like, comms need to be like this, Stu, not like this, or whatever it is over the course of the next few races or whatnot. So back-to-back season winners. Can you do it? Can you beat it?
Yeah, why not? It's a good start to the season, but it is a long road. And I think ultimately we need to stick with that mindset of it's all about getting in the grand final. And then there's just an opportunity once you get in that grand final to make it happen.
So that kid that was Dylan Fletcher a while back, who grew up with parents who were ballet dancers, right?
Yeah.
So a completely different sort of scenario for you to come into this sort of sailing world. What would you say to a young kid now who's kind of coming through the ranks and has a big pathway ahead of them? Obviously, we have the Athena Pathway team. So we're looking after a lot of youngsters who we're trying to bring through. And the Cup team's going to depend on them as well, coming through as the SailGP team is too over the years. What would you say to sort of a younger self about what you need to sort of look out for and what you need to be mindful of as you sort of step through this world of sailing?
I think one thing that sticks with me is that determination and not allowing the naysayers and the people who try and drag you down to drag you down. Don't let them do that. Keep focused on enjoying the sport, having fun, being passionate. And that really is amazing to see in the younger generation when they've got that passion and that keenness, that almost it spreads throughout the whole team. And so just keeping hold of that and not allowing the naysayers to put you down.
How much would you say you've changed as a person in the last 5 years? Like you say, it's been a real roller coaster with a good outcome.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a little bit less fiery than I used to be. I think that's a good thing.
No, we need to bring all of that back. We need
it's
it
like,
to come
maybe
back.
it's a little bit more. It's like a little bit more controlled. Maybe that's the best way of putting it.
You're just growing up, Dill.
Yeah.
It's just more measured. Brilliant. It's been really good to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks.